Hello and welcome to another Void XRC video. Thanks for tuning in. Today I thought I would just do a bit of another update plus more in-depth look at the brushless conversion for the Eagle-3 here. Well, let's just get started by taking the body off. Just have one screw here holding it on really. So one of the first things I guess I should talk about is how I've redone the steering servo. So instead of using the stock bracket and then modifying the little mounting tabs on the servo comes with these little brackets that you just mount the servo mounting tab into that little slot, and then you can screw it down. So what I've done is I've got those on both sides of the servo. It's kind of hard to see the other one. And then I just have a little screw and a nut coming up through the bottom, holding it down on the back side, because that was where the original hole was, so I didn't have to drill any new holes or anything. So there's another screw and nut holding it in down in there. Hopefully you can see that. And that's just a much more secure way to mount the steering servo there. One thing I forgot to mention: when you are installing, when you are installing the steering servo, one thing you will need to do is you will need to cut off one of these little tabs here on this mounting bracket on just one side, right here. Otherwise it wouldn't be able to fit in there. It would try and stick up the front there. Okay, let's see what I'm doing. So you can see you need to cut that one mounting tab off to go right in there. So one of the other things I want to talk about is for mounting the speed controller. There's a little piece it mounts to that unscrews. See if you can see the edge of it right there. And it's got 3 little legs on it that keep it up above the bottom of the chassis here. So what I did is you just undo these screws here, and then you can chop down those little mounting legs and have it sit about that much lower if you're looking for more space. I also am now running an axial drive shaft on the rear, as you can see. And I'll show you what you need to do that. So obviously you have to cut down the length of the shaft. You can see there it's not the straightest cut, but it works. So you have to cut down both ends. You also have to shave down a little bit of metal here. I just used this in the Dremel. It just went back and forth just while it was spinning. That's enough to get you the clearance you need. You also need to use a 3/32 drill bit to drill this out on the diff. And then you need to drill it out here, coming out the back of the gearbox. Let's get that back in there now. I also put some 500 weight oil in the rear diff, so when one wheel's in the air, they both still spin, as you can see. It's really helpful, I find. Just on the rear wheels though, nothing in the front. I also took the wheels apart and stripped out the foam, so these are all air-filled. Just used a little bit of tape to cover the hole. So these are all air-filled tires now, which I like. Let's see what else. Another thing I had to do that I noticed after that little running video was I was starting to get a lot of slip on the slipper clutch when I was getting on the power. So I removed it and cleaned it up. So what you need to do that is you need to remove these 6 screws here, these top 3 screws here, and then you can remove the motor and this top metal bar. And then the last thing you have to do, excuse me, take out, see if I can get it shown here, that little screw in there to take the drive shaft off. And then you can pull the whole gearbox out. And then there's just 4 screws on this side here that hold it together. Just take those out. And then you can take out the slipper clutch. And mine was covered in a bunch of oil and it was super slippery and greasy, so I just cleaned it all up. I gave it a light little sanding just to help it grip a little bit better, and I just reassembled it. So that's a pretty simple thing to do. So if you're finding you got lots of slip or whatever, I would suggest looking at the slipper clutch like that. One thing I just forgot to mention before too is with the heatsink, you really need to make sure you have it as far up as possible away from these body mounting points down here, otherwise it can get in the way there, especially if you have it. Come on. With the longer fins at the bottom, you can see the difference there in the fin length. So you don't want it like that because it will interfere with that body mount. So you do need it the other way. I also changed up my front suspension again. I had an old pair of RC18B2 rear shocks hanging around. So as you can see, they're in there. I used the rear springs from the stock suspension. I cut them down, and now that has given me the kind of suspension performance that I was looking for personally. It's just how I want it. It's probably not how everyone wants it, but for me that's what I found worked. What else? I think that's the main things that I just wanted to get across. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. See you guys next time.